Because again, we ain't having sex, so why are you talking to me? This is the topic that everyone has been waiting for. I know you wanted it. Christian dating. We've talked about dating a non-Christian. We've kind of touched on that. If you want to watch it here, you can. But today we're going to be talking strictly about Christian dating, as in you are dating a fellow Christian. And I held this topic off for a long time because I myself didn't know if I was spiritually ready to talk about it. Like, I knew what to look for. I logically knew what to look for, but I didn't spiritually, like it was a head knowledge but not a heart wisdom. And I didn't want to give you guys all this advice on how to find a godly man or like what to expect in a relationship when I myself was struggling to actually choose good men in the first place. But I feel like I'm, you know, at a good level now in terms of my spiritual maturity and my ability to really make my standards high. And I don't mean high in a prestigious way. I mean high as in no one can try and date me who doesn't realize that I'm a child of God and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Period. We're not about to do that. We're going to really respect how valuable we are and respect how God wants us to treat ourselves, who we should let into our lives, how we should treat our bodies. We're gonna not settle. That's what we're gonna do, and that's why I really want to make this video, because it is easy to settle for just anyone who likes you. But comparing dating someone just because of initial attraction and a few things in common versus something that is literally ordained by God are two different things. Obviously, I'm not here to tell you what is ordained by God. You will know. It will be something that is deeper than just these surface level things. But if these surface level things that I'm about to tell you in this video aren't in check, then he's definitely not the God-ordained man, or if he is, he needs some time. And by time, I mean time alone, not time with you to try and fix him. I've tried to be a nurse to countless of men, and it's gotten me nowhere. A man needs time to grow on his own, to grow in his relationship with God, and so do you. I want to make this very clear actually before I fully get into this. If you are not at that spiritual maturity where you yourself feel satisfied by a relationship with God, if you have mainly healed from things that you've gone through, I'm not saying you need to be perfect, that's why I'm saying mainly, and you feel like you'll be able to choose a godly man in the correct way, then you can think about dating. But I guess it's okay. I don't have anything wrote down, so I'm just going to go with what, like, you know, is coming out of my mouth. So, dating. Are we putting ourselves out there for potential men to talk to us, go on different dates, put yourself on dating sites? I don't know. Like, it would be wrong of me to say yes or no, because I personally have never been on dating site. I've never, like, gone out and dated multiple boys like that before. But I think, like, it is really down to prayer. You have to talk to God about it. You have to get him involved. We're talking about bringing God every step of the way to ensure that it's going the way that he wants it to, not you just following your own desires. And that's another thing about dating. Are you following your desires because you're desperate, child? You know what? I'm not even going to sugarcoat in this video, because sugarcoating gets no one anywhere. If you guys know me when I talk about relationships or friendships, I am not capping on anything. I'm gonna tell you raw. Are you desperate? Are you desperate for a man that you want to just parade yourself out there on dating sites? Because we all know that a lot of dating sites are just for hookups. If God told you to make a Tinder account tomorrow, I can't say anything. But it's your intentions behind why you're doing it. If you don't feel led by God to do so, I personally don't think that it should be something that's done, or at least done now. Like, if you want to do it, pray about it first. The only reason why I'm saying it in such a harsh way is because you don't want to put yourself in a situation you regret later. As Christians, we know that we must be refraining from any sexual activity until marriage. The ghetto. So anything that is going to tempt you or put you in a position that compromises your faith, we're not going to do. And the men that are on there, are they going to make you think about that? Potentially, most definitely actually, because as I said, a lot of people are on there for sex. not for a relationship, especially not for a godly relationship, because relationship and godly relationship are two different things. So you may want a relationship, but is that person connected with God? Is that person leading you to a higher standard? And that's already a red flag that I want to talk about later on. But in terms of going on loads of dates, my personal opinion with that is, okay, you can go and meet loads of people, but if you start catching feelings for one, you can't talk to the other people. That's why I just find it such a tricky thing. Like you're having to choose between men, and it just feels very game show to me. Like you're not really treating them as people. You don't know how they're really feeling about you. They may only be dating you and think that like they've really got a chance, and you're like talking to like 4 other guys and they have no idea. I think the true Christian thing is to be still and pray and not get yourself into a situation where you are talking to multiple boys at once. I'm not even saying it in like a moral standard way, even though yes, morally I don't think it's the best, but just for your own mental, like what benefit do you get in catching feelings for multiple men? I don't know. I'm not feeling it. But anyways, moving on to red flags. I said this in a video before about red flags. I think people know what red flags are and what they should not look for in a guy and things that do make them feel uncomfortable, but we just ignore it every time. So I'm just going to make it very explicit to you. And of course, I'm not saying that every man is perfect, but there are certain surface level things that I believe are not up for debate, especially in terms of Christian dating. Obviously, we could start with just the basic ones. Maybe they're not basic for some people. They most certainly weren't basic for me, because I clearly just didn't like to be respected by any man. But respect, obviously, care, affection, and by affection, they're not holding back and they're not hiding their emotions. And I think this is more so for Christian dating than non-Christian dating, because I feel like when you come to Christ, your toxic masculinity is most definitely challenged. And if you are struggling to be in tune with your emotions and just want to act hard like this over testosterone male, then you need to work on that, because Jesus wept. Jesus had emotions. Jesus was the ideal representation of a man. If they are struggling to handle their emotions, how do you think they're going to be able to handle yours? I'm not saying he needs to be crying all the time, but what I'm saying is that, is he able to be vulnerable with you about just like basic things? And then I'd also say a sense of direction. I guess we're kind of talking about the Christian things now, because really and truly, guys, you know what red flags there are with like normal dating. You actually know. And I also think, really and truly, when you are connected with God and you are praying and you are allowing him to transform you, your standards are just so much higher. Take that time to just really dwell in God's promises and what God wants for you, so his ways are your ways and you don't settle for anything less than that. But in terms of Christian things, I mentioned a sense of direction. And this is something that I don't think many non-Christians have, because people aren't dating to marry. People aren't intentionally waiting till marriage. So it's like that dating thing is more of just a fun experience rather than like a potential life partner. Like you're looking for a potential life partner. If you are dating someone who doesn't really know where it's going, or is just kind of like seeing how things go, or they just want to have fun, be wary. I'm not saying that you don't see how it's going, because obviously you're not putting a ring on her finger right now, but if you aren't seeing a relationship as something that could potentially turn into a marriage, then what is this? You know, like I never used to be like that. I used to think it was so weird when people dated for marriage, but now it's like that's a waste of my time. I need a sense of direction. Like I want to know that you're taking me seriously in that way, and that you've looked at me in a sense of, can this be my wife? Could I live with you for the rest of my life? Can I be one flesh with you for the rest of my life? Can you be the mother to my children? And if you're not thinking about that, that's a bit dodgy. If he doesn't mention it within like the first few weeks, you know, what his intentions are, then you have got to let that man go. We're not doing that. I'm sorry, but I am not your little summer fling. I am a child of the Most High God, and you better treat me with respect. You better see me as someone who's more valuable than just fulfilling your desires for a certain amount of time. Because again, we ain't having sex, so why are you talking to me? If we're not going to get married in the end, what is the point in this? What, we just go on cute little dates but don't claim it? what do you want from me? True Christian relationships consist of more than cute surface level affection. There naturally will be a deeper level of connection. I'm not saying that this person is your husband and who you're supposed to marry, because yes, they may not be. But with Christians in general, true Christians, there is already that deeper connection because we both have Christ in common. So if you're talking to a boy and you feel like you don't even have that, I mean, gosh, okay, we're moving on to the next thing. If you can't talk about God and you can't have deep conversations about the Bible, theology, your own personal experiences, why is he there? I don't know about you, but for me, I like talking about God more than anything else. Not only because I love God so much and he is the center of my life, I want it to be the center of me and my partner's life. If that isn't something that drives our relationship, then I'm not doing that. That is something that is a complete no-go. Like, there is no further discussion. If he is not talking to you constantly about God, first of all, what is he talking to you about? Because I'm very confused, because that should be you guys' most favorite topic to talk about. God is not a boring thing. God should be, if you find God boring to talk about, then you shouldn't be trying to find a boy in the first place. You kind of got to question where they are spiritually if they aren't excited to talk about Jesus. And then it's also like, where will that lead? Because you're basically setting your relationship up to not be centered around God. And when it's not centered around God, too much can happen. We all know the obvious. If you guys aren't constantly praying and constantly reminding yourself of why you are waiting for you know what, you'll fall into temptation. So if someone isn't on fire for God, they probably aren't on fire for the things that God stands for. It's just a slippery slope that you don't want to go down. And also, a man should be leading you. Oh, feminists, if you're listening to this, please hear me out. There is no such thing as sexism in the Bible. Women are on equal standards to men, but women have different roles than men. And as a man, they should be leading. And if a man isn't leading a wife, I'm not saying that the wife is literally getting all of her information from her husband. She should have her own individual relationship with God. But if the husband isn't pushing her to a higher standard and leading her to grow in her faith, then you're basically just going against the Bible. Like, there are scriptures for that. And because a man is supposed to lead, that means that he has to be led himself. Because a human being cannot lead themselves, because we are nothing without God. Meaning that the man should be fully led by God to ensure that his wife is going in the right direction. That's why when I see people getting upset about wives submit to your husbands, I think you don't know the full context, because a woman should never submit to a man who isn't submitting himself to God. You can have a good submissive relationship if a man is acting out of his own wisdom, his own intellect, and not out of what God wants, because God knows what's best for the couple, God knows what's best for the wife, and then God will direct the husband to guide the wife in the right place. So the man will treat the woman with love and care and respect and do everything for her best interests. The husband should love their wives like Christ loved the church. Christ loved the church. Do you know what the church is, right? The church is us. And Christ died for us. So that's how much a man should love his wife. So if a man is submitting himself under God and loves me like Christ loved the church, I will happily submit to him. Like, I'm not saying that I'm sat in the house cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids all day. It's more than that. It's more of a mental and spiritual submission. So if you feel like your man doesn't have the qualities to lead you, then he needs to take some time for himself, and you need to go and find someone else, or just focus on yourself until God brings you someone else, because that's not worth your time. It's also like just thinking about him as well and his relationship with God. Like, you don't want to get into something when you don't feel like someone is spiritually ready either. This isn't just about you and your desires being fulfilled. This is about caring about the other person. So that's that. We kind of mentioned this a few times, but I think it's also important to note, even though this is very foundational, but sex. And obviously we're not supposed to be having sex.
Who is saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
And even if you aren't having sex, sex, there are obviously certain things that aren't the best. So let me give some examples. If they are talking inappropriately to you about sex or touch you inappropriately, that in of itself is a huge red flag, because not only does that display that they aren't taking their relationship with God seriously, but it also insinuates that they don't respect you enough. Waiting until marriage is obviously about your own personal relationship with God, but also when you're in a relationship with someone and you both are waiting until marriage, you want to make sure that that person is doing the same thing because you care about them and you care about their temple and their body, and if they're respecting it. I think respecting yourself should most definitely come before respecting someone else, because it's hard to respect someone else when you yourself haven't gotten the heart posture to understand why waiting until marriage is so important in the first place. That's why I mentioned in my dating a non-Christian video that they can respect you, but are they following the same lifestyle as you? Because if you change your mind tomorrow, they'll probably change their mind with you. But when you're dating someone who also has those same values, because they themselves had that heart posture to change and to wait until marriage, it's deeper, and they're going to want it even more for themselves and for you, because they know how important it is. Temptation is real, and I'm not even gonna cap, like, you can't be in a romantic relationship, Christian or not, and not be tempted. But it's how you take it from that point. Are you gonna keep pushing the boundaries and just seeing how far you can go, or testing your faith until you slip up and then you regret it? Or are you gonna set boundaries? Are you gonna have discussions about boundaries? Are you gonna ensure that you're holding each other accountable? If you are, your relationship will be so strong, and also it will be built in such an unbreakable way. Like, I feel like, first of all, when you're able to talk about those things, I think it's very important in of itself, because that shows you guys are both mature. And then also your relationship is being built on things deeper than just sex. You're even bringing sex to a spiritual standpoint. Everything is spiritual. And when you build it on that, unless God didn't want you guys to be together, you aren't going to break up. Because God being at the center of a relationship is literally super glue. Like, that is what holds things together. Because when that's at the center, you're not being influenced by your own desires, by your own lusts, your own temptations, what you want out of this relationship, but you are conforming to Christ. Those are all the red flags that I can think about. I lied. When I was editing, I thought of one more, and this is ambition. If a man doesn't have ambition in life, doesn't know where he's going, I'm not saying he has to have it all figured out, but he has no clue on his purpose, like his God-given purpose, then I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's ready for a relationship, because why you came down on this earth is more important than who you marry, and that should be established before you get in a relationship. Again, not saying it has to be some next six-figure earning businessman, but if he doesn't know where, like, what talents God has placed in him and how he can use it for the benefit of God's kingdom, then you need to maybe not go for him. Because again, even if he did have ambitions, are those ambitions there to benefit himself, give him money, give him fame, satisfy his fleshy desires, or are they for the glory of God and to help people? God has given every single person a purpose to help someone. It's not just about our own benefits. God wants us to be selfless in our businesses, and if he isn't being humble about that and not striving to bring God the glory rather than himself, then he has a pride issue. And if he's got a pride issue with business, oh girl, I don't know how he's going to be treating you in a relationship. So it's very important to see how they treat their own individual lives outside of you. Like, don't just look at how they function connected to your relationship with them, but also how they function as an individual, because that's when you really see how they take things. So yeah, also there's this video that I watched, a sermon about the 5 keys to knowing your soulmate. I will leave the link in the description. I think it's very helpful. It talks a lot about purpose in there as well, because that is essential. So yeah, I definitely recommend you give that a watch and just keep purpose in mind, because you don't want a bum. You really don't. You don't want to be having to take care of a man, or have a man that has no sense of direction in life. Because if he has no sense of direction in life, how is he going to have direction with you? Like, those things matter. and you need to take that seriously. And also think about yourself and your sense of purpose. Are you comfortable in who God has created you to be? Do you know what he's created you to be? Are you striving to fulfill that? If not, then maybe relationships aren't the best thing for you right now, because you should have that established between you and God first, not bring another person in. And obviously if those ones are in check, naturally the more basic ones are going to be like, I don't need to be talking about if he likes another girl's fit on Instagram. Like, babe, we are past that. If you're not, then you either need to mature or you need to get a better man, because those things shouldn't even be in the question. So yeah, obviously all those things but flipped, all those red flags but flipped are things that you would want in a man, that you'd look for in a man. But obviously there is that personable level on what's most fitting for you, and I guess that's like more the easy stuff. When all those things are put together and you just truly are just like, oh my gosh, I really like this boy, and you have that sense of peace, not just human peace on what feels good for you, but spiritual peace, then that is something that is definitely worth pursuing. And I don't know why you wouldn't, because that doesn't come around a lot. And I think it is, maybe it's God. I'm not here to tell you that you found your soulmate, but you never know until you try. I think it's just a thing where you just have to listen to God. A lot of people say, well, I can't hear God. Yes, you can. It's whether you choose to listen to him or not. God is never not speaking. It may not be audible, but it will be through peace or absence of peace. There will be clear signs if he is or isn't the one. And if you follow that and you ensure that you're in alignment with the word and putting God over him, that's so vital. You won't go wrong if you do that. Don't ever think that your man comes before God. That's another thing. If he loves God more than you, then you gotta keep her. That's all. I don't have anything else to say. And if you guys ever wanted like a part 2 where you guys ask me questions about relationships, I can definitely do that. I love doing relationship videos, as you can tell. I genuinely think I was born for it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.